just a hack. He's just an absolute hack. And he gets his ass kicked by his teammates every week. It's just, it's terrible. It's just terrible.
Welcome back to another episode of the Believe in NFL Draft Prospects podcast. I'm Joe DeLeone here with Alex Gilstrap and Ryan Roberts. We're doing yet another full class positional breakdown for the 2023 class. This time we are doing wide receivers. If you missed the running back show and the quarterback show, go back and watch those. But we have a fantastic crop of receivers that we are going to discuss today. As we did previously on the other shows, we're going to pitch guys that we're a little too high on compared to the consensus, guys that we're a little bit lower on than the consensus. So stay tuned for all that coming up. Guys, this wide receiver class, though, I want to start off before we get to the ad read. It's pretty safe to say that this group is not as good as the run of receiver classes that we've had over the past few years. And that should not be a hot take going into this episode to be saying that. There are some talented players, but we're probably going to get more guys that are going in the later half of the first round, early on day two.
I mean, it's the worst wide receiver class in at least 4 years, right? Because the last three were, the previous two before the 2021 cycle or 2022 cycle were historical, and then this past cycle, in my opinion, was a very good class again. So we're looking at a class. I think there's some questions at the top, and then I don't see a ton of depth either. I think it's a pretty underwhelming class, to be honest, which it's funny because, Alex, I don't know if you saw this, man, but yeah, I made a tweet about that like a few weeks ago, and people fought back at me so hard on that, man. They're like, oh, no, it's a really good class. I'm like, is it, though? I personally don't see it. I don't know.
I think a lot of people, I know what you're talking about. I think a lot of people make the mistake of saying, oh, there's a lot of names to whether this class is good or not. And at the wide receiver position, just because there's 3 or 4 of these guys on the field at a time, you're just going to have more names than you do running backs and you do quarterbacks. This class, relative to what we've had in the past few years, like you said, is down. It's just not as good of a class. There are some guys, that will fill a role. There's plenty of slot guys in this year's class that I kind of like. In the middle to late rounds is where I'd slot them in at currently. But at the top, like you said, you have some question marks. You have some athletes, some guys that put up some production. But then it kind of is just this void of guys that, I don't know. I have to see it a little bit more for me to feel confident in, their translation to the next level. So I feel like this year coming into summer scouting is definitely a shorter list of names to kind of keep your eye on than we've had in the past few years. And then, pair that with the question marks we have up top. I'm with you 100%. This position right now through the first 3 positions that we've walked through is the one I'm most underwhelmed with relative to, years past for that position.
Alex, I think you definitely hit the nail on the head there. There's a lot of guys that have production in this year's class, which is it's odd to see this amount of production. We've got a lot of guys that had over 1,000 yards or close to 1,000 yards last season, and some guys that went over 10 touchdowns. But with those guys, not all of them have the talent to really back it up. It's a little weird because there's all of these names that you recognize because of that production that they had last year. But this class, it seems like there's a lot less quality of players to back up that production, a lot of circumstance. It's just strange to look at this group knowing all these names, but also not feeling the sentiment that they're going to be elite NFL wide receivers and there's going to be guys who are good enough to be drafted in the top 15.
I think we're looking at a class here too, which it always makes you unsettled when you go into a class and you see like a lot of developmental players that need to take a massive step forward. I think of the quarterback class this year after the top 2. It's just like there's a lot of guys with talents, but can they make the massive step forward? Even with some of these guys, man, if they take a massive step forward, I still don't know if they're elite prospects. Like, I just don't. Like, I mean, we talked about it, Joe. Like, I like Keyshawn Boutte. I really did. I liked a lot of the talent, but if he takes a massive step forward, is he going to be a top 10 player in this class? Like, is he going to be a top 15 type of dude? Jackson Smith and Jigba, I'm very like lukewarm on. Like, I don't know. There's some of these guys I think are perceived as like high upside guys that I question if it's as high upside as people act like it is.
Well, let's play a game because I'm with you. Looking at it, I don't know if you have a list in front of you of some names for this year's class. Yep. How many, based on your perception of them thus far, do you think have a ceiling based on how they do this year could be first rounders? where you would spend a first round pick on him. Not, we're not trying to project. It's too early for that.
Maybe
I'd
4 or
say-
5.
Nah, I'd say 3. I think 3.
That's
I don't
why.
think
That's why I
there's
said
many.
maybe. I'm being much more generous than you are.
I think Butte has upside to be a first rounder. I think
Yeah.
Jackson Smith and Jigba,
Gonna
He's gonna be a
be.
first rounder.
yeah, and I'm fine with him being a first rounder, to be honest. And then the other guy is we haven't talked about him yet.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. I want to keep it to myself then because it's going to
Okay.
ruin a future show. But I mean, like guys like Quentin Johnston that we've went through, I don't see first rounder. I really don't. I mean, I don't know, man. Like A.T. Perry, I like a lot. He's not going to be a first rounder. We'll talk about another guy today, Rakeem Jarrett. I don't see first round upside. The only other guy that I would maybe even argue, and this one's going to be like a little bit of a hot take, I guess. I could see if Jermaine Burton has a huge year at Alabama, he might be a dude, but that's very high projection for that one. So I'd say 3. I only feel good about right now.
Yeah, I mean, we're struggling with 3. Some names you didn't mention that some people would argue. Jordan Addison, obviously going to USC, will have a chance with the production he put up last year. And then Marvin Mims, if he has a bounce back year at Oklahoma, he was one of the names to talk about after his true freshman season from Oklahoma. So really, though, you're struggling to find names that you feel comfortable with if they hit their ceiling this year and really put everything together, that you see someone that you're confident is a first rounder. I'm with you on Jermaine Burton being kind of the wild card, but still, even with that, you're talking 3 or 4 guys.
Right.
Let's get into talking about this class. Before we do, though, I just want to tell our listeners about Bet Online. Our partners at Bet Online continue to be the #1 source for all of your betting needs and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA and NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball, fights, and even next season's NFL futures. Bet Online is your continued source for all of your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's super easy to get started, so head to their website today or use your mobile device to join and use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. So we already brought up Jordan Addison, and getting into the category of guys that we're a little bit higher on, or maybe we shouldn't really be as high on. In this circumstance, it's a guy that I'm higher on than the consensus. I definitely had to bring him up because I know Ryan is not as big of a fan of Jordan Addison as I am. But I watched Jordan Addison yesterday, and my expectations were a little bit limited. I've noticed since I started getting into watching tape, I tend to step into watching these guys with the pretense of whatever Ryan tells me. So I'm coming in thinking that it's just because like you're the opinion that I usually go to for stuff. So that I get it from.
That's so
from
sweet.
You.
That's so sweet,
Okay.
man. So sweet.
So I was thinking I wouldn't really like him that much, but I watched him, and I understand why Ryan doesn't like him. But I saw a very quick release. Go ahead.
Can I cut you off real quick? Can you stop saying I don't like people? Can you stop saying that? That becomes a
sorry.
negative.
I understand why Ryan absolutely hates him and doesn't think he's draftable.
I mean, you curse so much on this show, and then this is why we get those negative reviews where people are like, "You hate everybody."
Sorry.
Yeah.
This is I understand why Ryan is not as much of a fan as I am.
Perfect.
Jordan Addison, I saw a very, very quick release, quick feet. I saw that he had very nice body control, trying to readjust to the football. He's a player who lined up at multiple spots for Pitt's offense. He was playing outside. He was playing in the slot, and he was able to get off the ball fairly quickly. The quickness for me was what really excited me, and seeing what he could do. Doesn't do a whole lot after the catch, as much as you'd kind of like for a guy as athletic as he is. But the one concern that we get that Ryan brought up is the play strength. And I understand having that concern and being worried about a player who physically can't match up, where he has to handle himself in press, or he's trying to make a contested catch. That stuff is concerning. But overall, I think the rest of it, I really liked him. And I would argue I would put him in that discussion for wide receiver 1 going into an offense that has a quarterback with an actual arm and not a noodle arm.
How fast do you think Jordan Addison is, if you had to guess?
Low 4.4s.
You think so?
Yeah, at least. Yeah. He was noticeably fast. And again, he's like 180 pounds soaking wet, which is pretty light. And it's the Devontae Smith quandary that we had a couple of cycles ago. But I mean, the guy was just so dominant. He was open so often, and it's not like it was all scheming him open like I was concerned about with Smith and Jigba.
I think he's just not my type. He might just not be my type. I mean, he reminds me a little bit of Olave, and Olave wasn't my type. I didn't dislike Chris Olave, even though people thought I did, even though I had a second round grade on him. But yeah, there's some things I hesitate on, and play strength is one of them, because usually play strength limits your ability to line up across the formation, right? And I don't know if he's ever going to be a guy that is a true outside receiver. I don't know if I see that, but he's still a good player. There's no doubt. I mean, you don't have over 100 receptions and over 1,500 yards if you're not a good football player, right? So, yeah, Jordan Addison's a good player. I'm just being a little lower on him than you. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, Addison to me is someone that you kind of know what you get with him. Like you said, you know you're not getting the play strength, but you're getting someone that has enough speed and can separate and can find himself in open parts of the field and can take advantage of it after the catch with his athleticism. So I think Jordan Addison's going to be kind of a plug and play slot guy at the next level year one. And I think he'd be someone you'd be happy with as your starting slot. As long as you had some guys on the outside as well, if you can pair with them. So as long as you're not relying on him to be your focal point of your offense, your passing offense at the next level, I think this is someone you'll be really happy with what he gives you, the return on it. So I see Addison currently as someone I think is easily a second round player. But I don't know how much more he can improve based on what we saw from him last season. I mean, really, it's going to come from him getting bigger and stronger, but I don't really see that forecasted into what he can do for this year. So I think he is kind of what he is, and as long as he puts up respectable numbers this year at USC with Caleb Williams and that transfer from Pitt, you're going to be happy with him, and he's going to me probably be a mid-second round guy. That's where I'd look at him.
Hopefully he eats a little bit more Raising Cane's and bulks up a little bit. Nobody saw that picture of him. Just
I did not. Is Raising Cane's good though? I heard it's really good.
Yeah,
I've had it once.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. That's weird. You're the one in the South. You should be eating it all the time.
Well, the closest one to me is Athens, and that's on the other side of Atlanta.
Drive to Athens and go get some right now.
It's like a hike.
Alex, your guy though. Who are you picking for this category?
Yeah, so I kind of took your approach that you had last week, as far as I understand I shouldn't like this guy as much as I do because of some obvious reasons, but I just really am intrigued by him. And my guy is Jordan Whittington from Texas. So Whittington came into the University of Texas as a running back recruit. And shocker, he didn't make it in that running back room with Bijan Robinson. So they converted him over to wide receiver and his man like a big slot receiver role for him. And turning on his tape, you can tell this guy is a running back that is just playing the wide receiver position. But personally, I really, really like those guys. The Deebo Samuel, the A.J. Brown, everyone's looking for that next guy that you don't have to do too much down the field with. Just put the ball in his hands and let him do work in space, breaking tackles. And Whittington does that for this Texas offense. And what is really a crowded room, if you really look at it, as far as the talent they have as far as putting the ball in guys' hands, with Xavier Worthy is a guy that we'll talk about this time next year as a wide receiver prospect. And then, of course, I mentioned Bijan Robinson as well. So Whittington there is really like the third guy in that offense as far as the guys you want to get the ball in his hands. But I really, really liked what he did after the catch. And he's super raw at the position. You can tell he's a running back playing the wide receiver position right now. But his athleticism, his contact balance after the catch is super, super fun to watch. The big hesitation with him, and Joe, you mentioned this pre-show when we were talking, he has a lot of drops on tape. And down the football field, this guy struggles hauling in the football. And there's times where he makes some splash plays at the catch point where he's basically robbing the safety of the football. But then other times he's coming across the football field, just goes right through his hands. And that's a problem right now for Whittington. But if he can improve on that and limit the drops and the tip balls that he allows to get back into the secondary, this guy has a lot of fun traits about him that I think some NFL offenses are really going to covet, because this guy really does a lot after the catch and makes life easy on the quarterback.
Yeah, Ryan, really quick, I was just going to say that the one thing for me, I watched him. I was juiced up watching him because he runs like a tank. He runs like a power back when he's got the ball, and he's just charging through people. What he did against UL Lafayette was
like
really
week 1 or
fun to
week
watch.
2. Oh
Yeah,
my
week 1.
gosh.
But then you see him against Arkansas, and he's just dropping passes, man, that he's supposed to be making. Like it's hard to buy in when you're dropping passes like that. But I mean, there's value to it. Maybe he's a kick returner or something. I don't know. He's an aggressive runner.
He's fast too, right? Like he's 4.4
Mhm.
something, dude, right?
Yeah. I'm sure he's like mid to high 4.4s.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, Texas has a lot of guys to talk about, man. You mentioned Worthy already. Getting a guy like a Whittington. Is it Whittington?
Whittington. Yeah.
Whittington. And then also they have, I mean, if anybody wants a sleeper out there, they have Isaiah Nair, who was a 1,000-yard receiver for Wyoming last year that transferred over there, who's like a longer wide receiver. And Jaleel Billingsley.
12 touchdown receptions too, which is nuts.
Yeah, man. He was a good player for Wyoming, really good player. And then they got Bijan. Roshan Johnson's a guy that no one talks about too much in the running back room because Bijan's so good. But yeah, a lot of footballs go around in Texas next year. It's going to be fascinating to watch. I wonder what the splits are going to be and what the targets are going to be and all that type of conversation. But it should be pretty interesting to see Texas football with Quinn Ewers, Joe's boy, Quinn Ewers. Heisman
Why is that my boy?
You look like you would like a guy that has a mullet. I don't know.
I probably would be into a weird bit like that. Ryan, your guy though, who we talked about the other day, I am certainly a fan of. I'm very glad that we're talking about him again because he is a really, really fantastic player. And I think I saw a rankings list. I was kind of curious poking around how people felt about certain players. Like A.T. Perry was at like bottom 10, like 15, like which is just so weird to me.
Yeah, no, I like AT a lot, man. He's 6'5", he's 205 plus pounds. I think he's gonna be a 4.4 high type of kid. He's explosive. He uncovers deep. He's more of a vertical route stem type of player, but he's a really intriguing athlete. And I think that he's hurt a lot by Sam Hartman, who kind of underthrows a lot of balls and kind of forces him back to the football a little bit. But he can uncover, man. He's got some straight line speed. I don't think this guy's just a catch boy type of dude. I did say this on the episode, though, Alex, where we talked about A.T. Perry and we talked about Quentin Johnston. A.T. does... I'm trying to be a little cautious with him because there are things about him that do remind me of Hakeem Butler. And Hakeem Butler
I love Hakeem Butler.
I loved
Hakeem Butler.
I had a second round grade on Hakeem Butler. I loved
Find me one person who wasn't high on Hakeem Butler. There was not a single person that wasn't like, this kid's a freak.
He was 6'5", 220, had some incredible contested catches. Then he went through a combine and ran like 4.47 or something. I'm just like, oh. My Lord, Butler, good.
Never put it together.
No, and he reminds me a little bit of that. The one reason that I think that I'm not going to move off of the A.T. Perry thing, though, and I'm going to trust my eyes on this one, is that he doesn't have drop issues like Hakeem Butler had, man. Like that was the big thing with Hakeem, and it still haunted him going to the Cardinals and into his NFL career. So I like A.T. I think that he has really strong hands. I think he's got a big body. I think he's got speed. When you have that height, weight, speed, I think you're going to be able to play the next level if you're developed properly. So I like A.T., but there are some things that have me worried because I have missed on a receiver that is stylistically kind of similar to him.
Yeah, A.T. surprised me a little bit too. I might not be quite as high, but I mean, I like to think in summer scouting, looking at these guys pretty early, how do they win? There's 4 primary ways that they win. It's either after the catch, guys that you want to feed the ball in short areas of the field. It's because of their route running. It's because of their speed, or it's because of their size at the catch point. Those are basically the 4 ways you win. And throughout A.T. Perry's film, you at least see him win in that area a handful of times in each of those 4 facets. You know, obviously he has a size, you mentioned 6'5", 200 plus pounds, but he had better speed than I anticipated down the football field. I'm glad you mentioned Sam Hartman because the catch point stuff stood out to me because he was underthrown quite often. Route running's kind of fine. I mean, for his size, it's good, but you don't expect him to be a true, route runner like that. And then his speed, like I said, I mentioned his speed already. So his speed is pretty impressive for his size. So I really liked A.T. Perry. I think you're going to have a limited upside with him because I don't know where else he has room to grow. I think he's going to be an older prospect too because I think he's a 99 baby. Is that right?
He is.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he'll be older. So, some people will be hesitant with him because of that and won't have as many years of his prime when he gets to the NFL. But I like A.T. Perry. Not a bad football player at all. And he can win in basically every facet of the position.
Joe, I'll bet you $20. There's a certain director of an All-Star game that is going to love Sam Hartman. By the way, just popped in my head as I was thinking about it.
No comment. No comment. Ryan always antagonizing. I don't say I hate players, and then he also continues to antagonize other people.
I'm not antagonizing him, man.
You're antagonizing.
Are you honestly though?
If you're not antagonizing, tweet it.
Isn't Sam Hartman?
Yes, he's a Senior Bowl guy. Yes, he's.
Well,
totally
he's the perfect example of a
Yes.
guy that's a really good college player, lacks traits, but NFL guys are going to say, but he's got moxie to him.
If
Like,
Bailey
he's a
Zappi
perfect
got
guy.
invited to the Senior Bowl this past year, he is 1,000% getting invited. And there's not a lot of upperclassmen guys this year as there was last year. Like, it was all freaking upperclassmen, and then even to the point where Howell graduated early and he was able to participate. 1,000% Sam Hartman is going to be him, and
100%.
there's another kid. Hooker's obviously going to get the invite, but
Hooker,
Grayson McCall.
Dracovic, Devin Leary.
McCall is going to be a Senior Bowl guy.
there's
McCall's
one
a
other.
redshirt junior, so is he definitely eligible?
I think he should be on the graduation track.
There was
Gotcha.
one other guy, and I'm completely blanking on him, and it's like so similar to the
Keaton Slovis,
Aiden
not
O'Connell.
Slovis.
Aiden O'Connell.
No.
from Purdue.
Jake Hayner.
No, maybe it was Aiden O'Connell.
Oh, it's definitely Jake Hayner will definitely be at the
Jake
Senior
Hayner
Bowl,
definitely
no
will.
doubt.
It was Aiden O'Connell. I mean, I also would not be shocked if Stetson Bennett finishes the whole season. He is gonna be a Senior Bowler. I am.
100%. 100%.
I'll bet you $100 he's.
If he
we're
has
gonna put the money down on that.
Not even if they win another championship, but if he just has a good year for Georgia, like
if he
did
just
last
starts
year,
the whole season, that's it. That's
Right.
all he needs to do. He just needs to replicate similar stats, which he actually had a pretty good. I saw ESPN's stats and info page posted a graphic of like, here are the top returning QBR players, and then like the way that they phrased it was, this year's quarterback class is going to be a lot better. And then there's Stetson Bennett just plopped in the top of this graphic, and I'm like, is he really in the conversation for even being drafted? Apparently.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
That's Alex's boy, man. That's his poster child right
Dudes
there.
who don't watch film are gonna love Stetson Bennett.
Alex has a fat head of Stetson Bennett in his room.
Of course he does. I would like to talk about guys that we're not as high on as the consensus. My player, Xavier Hutchinson from Iowa State. So I flipped him on, and I immediately understood why everybody loves him. I'm like, oh, this dude's freaking massive. Like he's built really, really well. He's a good athlete. The spots where I was a little bit held back on is after I started to watch him more. He's a little stiff. And the other thing too, you think for a big receiver like that he would have like dominant levels of play strength. I didn't get a whole lot of that from him. Like I saw him against Baylor. He was getting pushed around a little bit by the corner who was covering him, which was very odd to see, again, for a bigger receiver. Separate from that, I didn't see him creating a whole lot of separation for himself. Again, I can understand why people like Xavier Hutchinson. I just wasn't that bought in. I was like, I mean, this guy's fine. And he wasn't truly dominant in a lot of his games. He had a couple big performances, but that dominance factor to me is something that I always like to bring up with receivers that are hard to totally buy in on. And I think Hutchinson fits that description for me.
I kind of like Xavier Hutchinson. I don't know if this.
He's
fine. He's fine. Okay. Yeah. I mean,
that's where I'm at with him.
He's a day 3 kid. I mean,
right. That's my point. Is that like he's fine. He's a day 3 kid. He's got some upside. I just can't buy into him being anything more. And like I was looking around at some lists last night, and like he was somebody who was kind of popping up higher and higher on some of these lists.
Yeah. No. I agree with that. I mean, if there's a reason he went back, right? I mean, because he was a kid that was getting talked about for the Senior Bowl last year. I don't know if he had an invite, but he was a guy that was very productive for Iowa State too. So, I mean, there's a reason that stuff happens, man. There's a reason that those guys head back to school. So I'm there with you on Xavier Hutchinson.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see him this year too, without Brock Purdy now, who has been his quarterback for what feels like a decade. So,
that's draft pick Brock Purdy to you, sir.
Starting 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy.
According to Daniel Kelly. Keep going.
Yeah. So Xavier Hutchinson for me, he's a guy that is going to be in the NFL for a long time and be that wide receiver 5 that's on the roster. The bottom of the, but like you're okay with it. He'll come in when injuries happen and he'll be fine for you. He may have the Quintez Cephas type career arc where there's going to be a couple years on a bad team where he outperformed what he should because he's on a team with no wide receivers around him. And I could see him performing well there, but he's going to be someone you look at replacing if he's a starter for you. So Xavier Hutchinson's fine for me. I think he doesn't have too much negative to say about his game, but there's nothing that really stands out trait-wise either. So I think this is someone that I just kind of see in his career forward. I see him as someone that sticks in the NFL for quite a long time, but does so on the back end of the depth chart.
Go put his big ass on kick return. Go have him block on kick return.
Man, I just had a really good comp for him, and now I just lost it, man. Former Indiana wide receiver from a few years ago that played with the Giants. Played with the Giants.
Wap Floor?
No.
No.
Before that, he was like a second or third round pick.
He played with the Giants. I don't know.
No, just wait. Start talking, Joe. I'll figure it out.
Alex, who is your guy though that you're picking?
Yeah, so for me, I'm going to talk about someone else that feels like he's been in college forever, and that's Jaden Reed from Michigan State. Reed and quarterback there at Michigan State, whose name is slipping my mind, have a really good rapport with each other.
Peyton Thorne.
Yep, them two have a really, really good rapport with each other, and you can tell when watching the tape. He looks to Jaden Reed often. I mean, all the time. And obviously the production he put up is impressive. And that's why he's a name in this year's upcoming class as a fifth-year senior. But for me, as a true slot guy who's going to slot in probably a shade under 6 foot, he's probably 180, 185 pounds. He doesn't really have the speed that you would really, really be looking for at that position. His route running didn't really wow me. There wasn't really too much to Jaden Reed's game outside of him just being a pretty well-rounded college slot receiver that really warrants me thinking this guy could be a day 2 pick. So Jaden Reed for me is someone that I think's gotten a lot of hype because of his level of production at the collegiate level thus far. I think a lot of that has to do with there's not too many guys in that Michigan State room, and he has a really good rapport with that quarterback. And I think he's a good college receiver. I just don't really see how that translates to the next level as a plus, as a starting receiver or someone that you can really rely upon to be a focal point of an offense. And I've seen him recently in like top 10s of positional rankings. So I'm ready to slow the roll a little bit here on Jaden Reed as I don't see too many physical traits that really stand out and make me excited about his prospects to the NFL.
Yeah, I haven't watched enough of Reed yet. I've just heard that he's fast, so it's interesting that you didn't see the speed. So I look forward to digging into him. Cody Latimer, Joe. Latimer.
He sucked.
Yes, he did.
He got arrested for doing something really effed up, I think. I forget what it was. Yeah, wait, let me. So I just quick on Alex, though, your point. I also haven't gotten the chance to dive into him as well, but I always feel like it fits what we talked about at the beginning of the show. These older guys that stuck around for a long time, we fall into this trap of overvaluing those guys and then overvaluing the really productive guys at times. And I don't know. It seems like it's not lazy, but it just happens at the beginning of the cycle. And it's interesting to know that Reed might be one of those guys because he's just been around forever. He's a name that everyone remembers.
A little fun nugget on Jaden Reed. His birthday is going to fall. 23rd birthday is going to fall on day 2 of the NFL draft this coming year.
Uh-huh.
He's going to be pretty disappointed when he's not taken on his birthday.
That was messed up. That was really disrespectful.
Sorry.
Yeah, man, you're coming
for bad. That was bad. I'm sorry.
Cody Latimer was arrested because of a argument that broke out during a poker game.
Okay. Is
that it? Yeah, no, this is we're not going to go into that. It seems like it's a really messed up situation. Ryan,
Gotcha.
Wrap us up. Who's your guy?
Rakeem Jarrett, wide receiver out of Maryland, former 5-star recruits.
At Corey Kinnan.
At Corey. Oh, Corey, don't listen to this, man. I hope you didn't. So I know
show?
I don't know, maybe. Corey told me about him though, and he said that he really liked Rakeem Jarrett. So I made sure that I got to him this week. I don't know, man. Like he's a well-built slot that has some physicality to him. I think his straight line speed is fine. There's nothing about him that separates him, in my opinion. Like I I don't know. I've seen people have him as a top 5 wide receiver in the class. I'm just like, he's just very fine to me, right? Like, I think he's late day 2, early day 3 type dude. Like, he could be maybe a starting slot down the line, but I don't personally see it. Like, there's not any nuance to his game right now. He's a big physical athlete, right? For a slot receiver. Like, he can break tackles and he can do all that type of stuff. But I don't see nuance. I don't see dominance. Like, for a guy that was a 5-star recruit, especially after Dante Demas went down, I would expect him to just dominate each and every week. I just felt like I didn't see it. Like, I just did not see it. I don't know.
Please, for the love of God, stop overrating the Maryland guys. They're
Why?
not that.
Whoa. Dante Demas is legit.
Dante Demas is.
He can run.
His 2 good
Dante's
games were
good.
against Howard and I forget the other team that they played. They were like, and then he got hurt. But I just don't understand. I talked about Talia Tagovailoa, like how he's being brought up when he shouldn't be brought up at all. I just don't understand why we do this. Like, we do this often. There's a lot of talented kids that come out of that DMV area, and a lot of them commit to go play at Maryland. But please, can we stop overrating these guys that, like, I haven't watched Rakeem Jarrett, Ryan. I need to get this out there. We do this way too freaking much.
I
like Rakeem. I liked Rakeem more than you, Ryan.
How much did you like him? How much did you like him?
I thought I liked him a lot more than you based on how you were going. But then you said, oh, this is a late day 2, early day 3 guy. And I think I see him in the same vein. I think he is. I think he's like a, back end of the 3rd round, probably early 4th round guy. But I like him. I think this is I thought he was really well built. I think after the catch, he was pretty impressive. And that's what I really look for in my, those smaller, like, obviously you have your big slots, like, trying to, go after like the Juju Smith-Schusters of the world. And then you have your traditional slot receivers who are just shorter. And I feel like Rakeem Jarrett is just one of those sturdy slots that, you can rely on after the catch. Mm-hmm. I don't think there was any traits as far as like his speed or anything that really stood out, but I liked him more than Jaden Reed. So maybe I'm just playing the comparison game here.
Yeah.
And they're kind of similar molds. They're both that 5'11", 6 foot, I think Jarrett's a little heavier. I think he's got a little bit more muscle on him, but I mean, they're kind of going to be compared a little bit because they play a similar role in their offense. And I really liked Rakeem Jarrett versus what I saw in Jaden Reed. So maybe that's kind of where I'm coming from. But I kind of like Rakeem Jarrett. I don't think he has too much upside, but I think he's
thick. He's a
thick
guy.
thick.
He is thick.
And going back to my Jordan Whittington pick, I like those like thick after the catch, break tackle, wide receiver. That's like my style. That's my tick. I really love wide receivers that break tackles. So that's me.
I can't believe Joe just threw complete shade at the Maryland program. I'll say their offensive tackle Jalen Duncan's a pretty good player.
Okay, I'll watch him. I'll make a decision on it. We do it so often, and they've never been a good football program. They've never been a good football program, and every year we always act like that they're going to be good. And then
dare you insult Darius Hayward-Bay like that? How dare?
All right, we're ending the show on that.
Wait, Joe, can I put my stamp on one person before we leave?
No. Who do you got?
I am president of the fan club, Parker Washington, Penn State.
Oh, so you can't wait, but you came in here comparing him to Amari Rodgers. Like, I thought you'd be coming in here with a higher comp.
Whether Amari Rodgers has worked out thus far or not, we're getting some good reports at OTAs this year. It's only year 2 or year 3. I think Parker Washington's a dude. I really like him. I think I was comparing him to Amari Rodgers before the show because of his body, like composition. Like, his speed is similar, height, weight is almost identical to what Amari Rodgers did at the combine. So I think body shape wise, he's eerily similar to Amari Rodgers, but I think this guy dominates at the catch point versus what Amari Rodgers did. Amari Rodgers was really just a gadget, get the ball in his hands. He's shifty, he's quick, whatever. But this guy has that plus his ability, his ball skills are insane. This guy put down multiple ridiculous one-handed catches on his film last year. I know y'all seen the Jahan Dotson Ohio State one from year before last. That was impressive. Parker Washington has a lot of the same like insane catches, and you pair that with the athleticism and short area quickness that he does. I really like Parker Washington.
Did you like Dotson last cycle, or were you not a big?
Yeah, I thought Dotson was good. I don't know if 16th overall is where I'd take him, but I like Dotson. He was. Gotcha. I think he's going to be a really, really good wide receiver too for 10 years.
The funny thing with Washington is, like, I started watching him last night, and then I didn't I didn't finish, but his size is like really unexpected because he's listed at like 5'10", 212, which is massive for.
He's dense, man. He's dense.
Dude, that is a thick dude. Like that's really good.
My
size,
style, man.
Which
Dense
I don't even know if that truly fits Amari Rodgers because like Amari Rodgers wasn't that thick. Like this is.
Amari Rodgers.
Yeah, Rodgers was like 210. He was like 5'10", 210. He's a big
Yeah,
boy,
Amari Rodgers. I was looking at his mock draftable. I think he was 210, 212, something like that.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, he was 212.
Yeah. I mean,
cousin of
that's
Aaron
where I came up
Rodgers,
with that.
Amari Rodgers.
Because you don't see too many guys that are 5'10", 5'9", 210 plus pounds like you do with those two. So
do you
where
know
I
what?
came up with that.
Amari Rodgers is the only family member that Aaron still talks to.
Do you know? Oh, good one, Joe. Do you know actually? Speaking of Amari Rodgers' family, do you know who his dad is actually, though, Joe?
Yes. Wait, I forget. Because he was at
man.
the Senior Bowl and there was a whole big thing.
Tate.
Who was it? It's former
Quarterback, Tennessee, University of Tennessee. Right
It
after
was the
Peyton
guy
Manning.
who
T. Martin.
replaced Peyton Manning.
Yeah,
T.
T.
Martin.
T. Martin. So Peyton Manning never won a championship at Tennessee, and then he leaves the year after T. Martin takes him to the championship and wins.
Love it.
Yep.
All right. Great note to wrap us up on. At Joe DeLeone, at Alex Gilstrap, at Rise and Draft, at NFL Prospects Pod. Hit the subscribe button wherever you're tuning in. We'll be back with more.